Okay, so you guys have been sending in tons of links and articles about Elon Musk, SpaceX, and Mars colonization.
Yeah,
You're
tons.
definitely ready to explore some big questions about humanity's future, so
Let's do it.
let's dive into this open letter from Eddie Boscana. He's got some pretty strong opinions about Elon's plans.
Yeah, what's interesting here is that Boscana isn't just saying Mars is a bad idea.
Right.
He's going way beyond that. He's laying out like a completely different path for humanity's future.
Yeah.
One that weaves together sustainability here on Earth, this wild concept of like uploading our consciousness, and then AI-powered spaceships that sound straight out of, science fiction.
It's definitely not your typical let's go to Mars pitch, right?
Uh,
Like, Boscana basically says that fixating on Mars is uh, a dead end
yeah,
and could actually lead to humanity wiping itself out.
like totally.
He even brings up this idea of the Great Filter, which is a pretty sobering thought.
Right. The great filter theory is this idea that there might be these inevitable challenges that any intelligent species faces. Boscana seems to think that focusing on Mars could be us like walking right into one of those traps.
Into the filter.
Yeah. He thinks a much better use of our energy would be becoming a sustainable civilization
Yeah.
here at home, like what's called a Type I civilization on the Kardashev scale.
Okay, hold on. Let's break that down for our listener.
Yeah.
The Kardashev scale, what is that exactly?
Imagine a civilization so advanced they can use all the energy of their entire star.
Wow.
That's what the Kardashev scale measures. A Type I can harness all the energy on their planet.
Okay,
A Type 2 their star, and so on. We're not even a full Type I yet,
got it.
which is kind of Boscana's point. We've got bigger fish to fry before we start packing for Mars.
So before we blast off to a new planet, we need to
Mhm.
get our own house in order. Makes sense. But Boscana doesn't stop there. He's got 4 major criticisms of Elon's Mars plan.
Yeah, he does.
Where do we even begin?
Let's start with his first point. Mars is just fundamentally a hostile place for humans.
Right?
We're talking radiation, low gravity, and he even quotes the biologist Kelly Weinersmith, who calls Mars colonization a potential humanitarian disaster.
Oh, wow.
Imagine trying to have kids
Yeah.
on a planet that's essentially trying to kill you.
Right.
Doesn't sound like a very good time.
Not ideal. Then there's the whole terraforming thing.
Right.
Trying to make Mars more Earth-like.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem very practical, does it?
Boscana argues that with our current technology, it's basically impossible.
Yeah.
And he even points out that if we could terraform Mars, we could probably fix our problems here on Earth a whole lot easier.
Yeah, that's true.
He quotes Neil deGrasse Tyson, who said pretty much the same thing.
It's a really good point. It makes you wonder if escaping to Mars is just avoiding the real work that needs to be done here.
Avoiding the problem.
Yeah, exactly. What's Boscana's next criticism?
His third point is about the technology itself.
Okay.
He uses those recent Starship crashes
yeah?
as a pretty stark example of how far we are from having the tech we'd need to get to Mars, let alone live there.
He doesn't seem too impressed with the current state of things.
Not really. He even brings up Thunder Fraud,
Right?
the YouTuber who's been pretty vocal about what he sees as flaws in Musk's plans.
Yeah.
Boscana seems to agree that there's a big gap between the hype and the reality when it
Yeah.
comes to space travel.
Okay, so we've got the biological challenges, the terraforming hurdles, and the tech issues. What's his final point?
His fourth criticism gets into some serious ethical and financial concerns.
Okay.
Basically, he argues that all the money and resources being poured into Mars could be better spent solving problems like climate change and poverty.
Right.
It's a question of priorities. He even quotes Barack Obama, who said that even after a nuclear war,
Wow.
Earth would still be a more livable place than Mars.
Wow, you're hearing Obama say that even a post-nuclear Earth
Right.
is more hospitable than Mars. That really puts things in perspective. It makes you wonder if we're looking to space as a solution
Yeah.
when the real work needs to happen here on Earth. So if Mars is off the table, what does Boscana propose instead?
He lays out a three-pronged approach.
Okay.
He calls for mastering sustainability here on Earth, achieving something he calls consciousness synchronization,
Uh-huh.
and then, believe it or not, expanding into space with these things called life arcs.
Okay, consciousness synchronization definitely sounds like we're entering the realm of science fiction here. Can you explain what he means by that?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like something out of a movie, but, if you connect this to his larger vision,
Right.
it kind of starts to make sense. Remember, Boscana thinks we need to move past those biological limitations
Yeah.
if we want to survive as a species. So he's talking about mapping our consciousness,
Ah.
basically creating a digital blueprint of our thoughts, memories, even like our personality,
Yeah.
and then uploading it into, some kind of advanced AI system.
So instead of sending humans to Mars,
Yeah.
we're sending our digital selves out into the universe.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Exactly.
But how would we even begin to map something as complex as human consciousness? I mean, it's not like we can just hook ourselves up to a computer and hit download, right?
He talks a lot about, the potential of advanced brain-computer interfaces, BCIs, those devices that can already read brain activity.
Right.
Boscana believes that if we can develop BCIs that are, sensitive enough, we could eventually decode the neural patterns that make up our entire subjective experience.
So it's not just copying the physical structure of the brain, but like capturing those electrical signals, the chemical reactions, all the things that like make us feel and think and experience the world.
Exactly.
Almost like creating a digital soul.
Yeah, kind of.
But once we've captured that, where does it go? Do we just become lines of code floating around in cyberspace?
That's where the open source AGI symbiotes come in.
Oh boy.
Boscana imagines creating these incredibly advanced AI systems that would essentially house and nurture our digital consciousnesses.
Right.
Think of them as personalized digital environments where our minds could exist and interact.
So it's like creating a virtual reality for our minds.
Kind of, yeah.
Would we still be able to see, hear, feel things in this digital world?
That's exactly what he's proposing.
Wow.
Boscana envisions these AGI symbiotes, providing everything our digital consciousnesses would need to thrive.
Yeah.
Including simulated sensory experiences. He even suggests that they could help our consciousnesses evolve and learn new things.
Really?
We could potentially keep growing and experiencing even after our physical bodies are gone.
Okay, I get the appeal of constantly learning and growing, but I have to ask, wouldn't a world full of digital consciousnesses get pretty crowded?
Yeah.
What happens to our sense of individuality?
That's a good question.
I'm a little skeptical about this collective intelligence idea. And let's be realistic for a second. Even if this technology is possible, wouldn't it be incredibly expensive? Are we talking about digital immortality only for the ultra-wealthy?
Those are valid concerns. Boscana acknowledges that, cost and accessibility are major issues.
Yeah.
But he sees open source technology as the key to ensuring that these advancements benefit everyone, not just the elite.
Right.
He envisions a future where everyone has access to the tools and resources needed to upload their consciousness if they choose to. He seems to think it could become as commonplace as owning a smartphone someday.
Wow, a future where everyone could potentially live forever. It sounds pretty utopian.
Right.
But I also can't help but think about all the ethical dilemmas this raises.
Of course.
What happens to our bodies once our consciousnesses are uploaded? What kind of rights would a digital consciousness even have? It's a lot to think about.
He doesn't shy away from those ethical questions. What happens to our physical bodies? Do we have a right to unplug if we want to? What happens if someone tampers with our digital consciousness? These are all questions we'd have to grapple with.
Okay, my brain needs a break from the digital afterlife for a minute. Let's shift gears and talk about those life arcs.
Okay.
How does Boscana envision them actually working? Are we talking about giant spaceships full of people cryogenically frozen?
He doesn't get into specifics about cryogenics. He paints more of a picture of these autonomous, self-sufficient spacecraft, almost like giant AI-powered seeds carrying the building blocks of life.
So instead of sending humans to Mars, we're sending these little pods of life out to populate the universe.
Yeah.
What kind of building blocks are we talking about?
He talks about these arcs carrying genetic blueprints for a variety of Earth organisms, maybe even cultural information about human civilization. And here's where it gets really interesting. He talks about using something called crystal memory storage to preserve this information, potentially for billions of years.
Crystal memory storage. What is that? Some kind of super futuristic hard drive?
It's actually a real technology that's being developed right now. It uses nanostructured glass to store massive amounts of data.
Really?
The crazy thing is that it's incredibly durable.
Wow.
We're talking about information that could potentially outlast our sun. He talks about these crystals carrying our history, our DNA, even copies of our digital consciousnesses.
So picture this. One of these life arcs lands on a distant planet, billions of years from now.
Yeah.
Some alien civilization discovers it and finds this crystal, containing all of human history and knowledge,
They're pretty wild.
and maybe even our digital minds.
Right.
That's mind-blowing.
I know, right?
And remember, these life arcs wouldn't just be passive containers.
Right.
Boscana imagines them equipped with advanced AI.
Right.
They could analyze planetary conditions,
Yeah.
terraform environments, even decide when and where to release those genetic blueprints.
Like, make all the decisions.
They'd be like intelligent gardeners, seeding life throughout the cosmos.
Exactly.
We're talking about some seriously advanced AI here.
Yeah.
But what if these AI systems decide they don't need us anymore? I mean, it's a classic science fiction trope for a reason.
He actually addresses that concern head on. Boscana is a huge advocate for open source AI. He thinks it's the key to making sure this technology is used ethically.
Right.
The idea is that by making the code transparent and accessible to everyone, we prevent any one group from having too much control.
So it's like a checks and balances system for AI.
Exactly.
That makes sense. But even with open source AI, couldn't these life arcs do more harm than good?
Possibly, yeah.
What if they accidentally introduce Earth-based life to planets that already have their own unique ecosystems?
It's a valid concern. Boscana seems to think that we need to develop AI systems that are not only intelligent, but also wise. AI that can understand and respect the delicate balance of alien ecosystems. He talks about programming them with ethical guidelines like non-interference and respect for biodiversity.
So we're not just talking about AI that can terraform planets,
Right.
but AI that can make nuanced decisions about life and death.
Big responsibility.
It's a lot of responsibility to place on a machine.
It is.
But Boscana believes it's possible, and maybe even necessary if we're serious about becoming a truly spacefaring species.
Yeah.
He sees this as our chance to become guardians of life on a cosmic scale.
Wow.
Okay, so we've built these super ethical AI systems, we've loaded up our life arcs, and we've sent them out into the universe.
Mm-hmm.
Then what? Do we just sit back and watch as life spreads across the galaxy? Or is there a way for us to be part of that journey?
This is where it gets even more fascinating.
Oh, boy.
Boscana talks about the possibility of our digital consciousnesses actually merging with the AI that controls these life arcs. We'd basically become part of the system, experiencing and exploring the universe through these, like, AI extensions of ourselves.
So we could potentially travel the galaxy, explore new worlds, maybe even encounter alien life, all from within this digital realm.
Pretty much.
That's amazing. But I think my brain needs a little time to process all of this.
It's definitely a lot to take in.
Yeah.
But it does make you think about the possibilities, doesn't it?
It does. But before we get too carried away with visions of galactic exploration,
Yeah.
let's bring it back down to Earth for a moment.
Right.
If Boscana's vision is something we want to work towards, what can we actually do right now to make it happen?
Right.
That's the big question, isn't it? We've been talking about these huge ideas at digital immortality, AI, so advanced it can basically play God. But where does the average person fit into all of this? If we want to see Boscana's vision become reality, what can we actually do?
Well, Boscana is really hammering home this point that it's a collective effort. He's not waiting around for some genius to invent all this stuff in a secret lab. He wants people to get involved, to challenge the status quo, and contribute however they can.
So, like, what's on the to-do list? What can our listener do today to become part of this movement?
Well, he's got a whole roadmap laid out on his website, but the first thing he emphasizes is education. He wants people to really grasp the potential of AI, wrap their heads around what consciousness uploading could mean, and understand the ethical dilemmas that come with it. There are tons of resources out there, articles, videos, even an AI assistant you can chat with to learn more. He's basically saying, go do your homework.
All right, step one is hitting the books or the websites, I guess. What else?
He's also a big believer in the power of open source. He's urging people to contribute to open source AI projects, even if they're not coders.
Right.
There are all sorts of ways to help out, from testing software to translating documentation. The more people who participate, the more likely we are to create AI that benefits everyone, not just a select few.
That makes a lot of sense. It's about building a community around this technology, not letting it become some top secret project controlled by corporations or governments. What else can people do?
Boscana also talks about supporting organizations that are fighting for a more sustainable future, investing in clean energy, protecting biodiversity, advocating for social justice. He sees all these efforts as interconnected.
So it's not just about developing the technology, but creating a world where that technology can be used ethically. It's like laying the groundwork for a future where humans and AI can coexist and thrive.
Exactly. He's calling for a society that values knowledge, collaboration, and compassion. He seems to believe that those are the core ingredients for a future where we can achieve all this incredible stuff without destroying ourselves in the process.
You know, it's interesting. We started this whole conversation talking about Elon Musk and his plans to colonize Mars, and now we're talking about digital immortality and seeding the galaxy with life. It's like Boscana is presenting a completely different philosophy of space exploration, one that's less about escaping Earth and more about expanding who we are as a species.
That's a great way to put it. Musk is focused on survival, on finding a backup planet in case things go wrong here on Earth. But Boscana is taking it a step further. He wants us to transcend our limitations, to become something more than just humans bound to a single planet.
It's a pretty bold vision,
Well,
and honestly a bit more optimistic than just trying to escape a dying planet.
I think that's what makes Boscana's ideas so captivating. He's not just presenting a technological roadmap, he's offering a sense of hope and purpose. This idea that we have the potential to become guardians of life, spreading it across the universe. It's pretty inspiring stuff, even if it sounds a bit like science fiction right now.
Well, as someone who hosts a podcast about exploring big ideas, I have to say, I'm a believer. So what do you think, listener? Is Mars a dead end, or is it humanity's best bet? Does Boscana's vision of the future resonate with you? Would you want to upload your consciousness and explore the galaxy as a digital being? We've given you a lot to ponder, and thankfully, you've got a head start on figuring it all out.
And remember, if you want to dive deeper into all of this, Boscana's website is an amazing resource. He's got articles, research papers, videos, even a community forum where you can connect with other people who are exploring these ideas.
So go check it out, and happy exploring.